This will sound very strange, but in October of 1999, the famous actor Harrison Ford crashed the helicopter that he was flying. Also in October of 1999, Egypt Air Flight 990 crashed into the Atlantic Ocean off the coast of the US. Harrison Ford's helicopter crash and this Flight 990 crash are pointing to and predicting the date that NASA's helicopter will crash on January 17th, 2023. This video is part 1 in a video series that has 4 parts. Each part is very different from the other part, and all of these videos need to be watched in chronological order. This will sound very strange, but it is predicted that NASA's helicopter on the planet Mars will crash on January 17th, 2023. The post date that this video is posted proves that this prediction is made ahead of time, as well as does this time-stamped email by Google and this forensic notes document. If you are skeptical for some reason, please email me and I will forward these to you. This video is an extremely profound and interesting video and is one of the most important videos on this channel. As of the date that this video was posted, there is 0 news regarding when NASA's helicopter's next flight will be. Not only am I predicting that NASA's helicopter will crash on the red planet Mars on January 17th, I am also predicting that there will be a flight on January 17th. I am also predicting in this video that the historic barge that has been stuck on the rocks of the Niagara River for over 100 years will finally break free and crash over Niagara Falls on August 6th, 2023. Here is the email and forensic notes PDF file that document that this prediction is being made ahead of time. As will be explained, Niagara Falls and this historic barge that was involved in the most dramatic rescue in the history of Niagara Falls is Noah's flood and Noah's Ark symbolism. When the barge breaks free and crashes over Niagara Falls, it will be a prophetic sign symbolizing the beginning of God's judgment. From the Bible, the number 9 symbolizes God's judgment, and God often repeats a number 3 times for emphasis. The historic barge will crash over Niagara Falls 9 plus 9 plus 9 days before the date it is predicted that there will be a catastrophic asteroid hit on Earth on September 2nd, 2023. When his disciples asked Jesus for the signs to look for of his return, Jesus replied with the metaphor of birth pains. According to the medical profession, the average human gestation period is 40 weeks. The historic barge will crash over Niagara Falls on August 6th, 2023, exactly 40 weeks after the prophetic sign involving a helicopter crash on October 31st. That is pointing to the date that NASA's helicopter will crash on Mars on December 18th. On October 31st, 2022, the National Transportation Safety Board released documents regarding their investigation into a helicopter crash on the island of Hawaii that occurred in June. The crash was in a remote lava field, which is the equivalent of a desert. In the Gospel of Luke, Jesus said, quote, "When the unclean spirit has gone out of a person, it passes through waterless places. Seeking rest and finding none, it says, 'I will return to my house from which I came.'" Unquote. This is symbolism for the Antichrist Barack Obama, who is from Hawaii, who will soon return to the White House. Obama will become the president again through the replacement of Kamala Harris after it is predicted that she will die in a plane crash on January 31st. The crash of NASA's helicopter on Mars will hint at this. The National Transportation Safety Board document said that the engine of the helicopter that crashed in Hawaii was recently swapped out, but that on the day of the crash, 2 tours had gone fine. It was on the third tour of the day that the crash happened. This is symbolism for the third term of the Antichrist, who is from Hawaii. Obama's first 2 terms were fine, but in this third term he will persecute God's people as the Antichrist. It is predicted that Michelle Obama will replace Joe Biden as the president, and then Barack will replace Michelle as the president, the swapping out of the engine of the helicopter and it operating fine until the third tour of the day is symbolism for the coming swapping out of presidents. This 2 tours that were fine, which was followed by the third tour, which resulted in a crash, and hints at the 2 terms for Obama that were fine, followed by the third term of him as the Antichrist, hints at the number 23, which is one reason why the basketball president wore jersey number 23 in high school. This 2 tours followed by the third tour that was a crash in Hawaii, and Barack Obama wore jersey number 23 in high school in Hawaii. Obama will become the 48th president. In the statement from a 48-year-old passenger, he noted the time from onset to crashing was quick. He was attempting to say the Lord's Prayer and was not able to complete it, unquote. The coming persecution will be swift and will catch people off guard. There will be little time to prepare. The helicopter was operated by Paradise Helicopters. Hawaii is said to be paradise. The rainbow is a symbol for Hawaii. The rainbow is also a symbol for Niagara Falls, as Niagara Falls engenders a perennial rainbow, and this is the reason for this 40 weeks connection between Hawaii and Niagara Falls. And Niagara Falls is Noah's flood symbolism, and this barge that is on Niagara Falls that was involved in the most dramatic rescue in the history of Niagara Falls is Noah's Ark symbolism. The rainbow is God's sign regarding judgment in the account of Noah's flood, as recorded in Genesis 9:17. Obama is the rainbow president who famously lit up the White House in rainbow colors after the Supreme Court's ruling on gay marriage, and he was the president from 2009 until 2017. He also first arrived in Washington, D.C. as the senator from Illinois in the 109th Congress, lived on 109th Street while studying at Columbia University, and will return to the District of Columbia as the president and Antichrist in the 117th Congress. Obama went down to Cairo, Egypt, to deliver his famous Cairo speech, in order to tell the Muslim world that America is no longer a Christian nation. The Egyptians said that he was the new King Tut of the world, and in the Bible, the Pharaoh king of Egypt is symbolism for the Antichrist. The 31st chapter of the book of Isaiah describes the Antichrist in the end times that will be defeated by the Messiah in 2024, and this is the significance of this date, June 4th, 6-4, which hints at 6 times 4 equals 24. And this chapter begins with, "Woe to those who go down to Egypt." This is exactly what Obama did right after becoming the president. He went down to Egypt. God pairs the numbers 9 and 23 together to confirm the signs and connections, because the basketball president wore jersey number 23 in high school and became the president in 2009. The release of the National Transportation Safety Board's documents on October 31st regarding the Hawaii helicopter crash was exactly 23 years after Egypt Air Flight 990 that killed 203 people. 203 deaths hints at the number 23, and Flight 990 hints at the number 9, making this a pairing of 9 and 23. Egypt Air Flight 990 went down on its way to Egypt, and Egypt Air Flight 990 went down on its way to Egypt on the 31st of the month, And the 31st chapter of Isaiah begins with, "Woe to those who go down to Egypt." Flight 990 crashed 4+4 days after Harrison Ford crashed a helicopter. Harrison Ford and 4+4 days hint at the 44th president, who will replace Harris and will not be elected, just like President Ford. God also pairs 23 and 44 together to confirm the signs, as the 44th president was the basketball president that wore jersey number 23. 4 days after October 31st was the date 11/4, November 4th, and 11/4 hints at 11 times 4 equals 44. This was the day that the rocket that China launched for its space station made an uncontrolled descent from space and crashed on Earth into the Pacific Ocean. China is known as the Red Dragon, and its rocket's uncontrolled fall from the second heaven, outer space, to Earth is symbolism for Bible prophecy in Revelation chapter 12. The archangel Michael throws the red dragon, Satan, and his angels down from heaven to earth. This will also be the symbolism in NASA's helicopter falling and crashing onto the red planet Mars. China's rocket crashed uncontrollably from the second heaven to earth on the date 11/4 because it hints at 44, and this was 4 days after the release of the National Transportation Safety Board's documents regarding the helicopter crash in Hawaii of the Bell 407 helicopter. The date 11/4, which hints at 11 times 4 equals 44, and on this 11/4 date, the rocket of China, which is the Red Dragon, crashed uncontrollably to Earth, and also on this day, the S&P 500 stock market index lost 44 points. The number 500 is symbolism for the Antichrist because the 500th word in Strong's Greek New Testament Concordance is the word Antichrist, and the two other main stock market indexes also had prophetic numbers on this day, which confirms the prophetic significance of the minus 44 points. In Bible prophecy, the number 144 is symbolism for God's faithful and those that are worthy of escaping and being raptured from the coming persecution of the Antichrist and Antichrist system. And the number 350 is symbolism for the church that will be left behind, as the 350th word in Strong's Greek New Testament Concordance is the Greek word meaning examine or judge, to investigate, examine, inquire into, scrutinize, sift, question, specifically in a forensic sense of a judge to hold an investigation, to interrogate, examine the accused or witnesses, to judge of, estimate, determine the excellence or defects of any person or thing, as in the church. Also from October 31st, 2022, the date of the NTSB report regarding the helicopter crash, which was exactly 23 years after Flight 990 Egypt Air crashed, killing 203 people, which hints at the number 23. It is 23 days from the NTSB report on the helicopter crash in Hawaii on October 31st, 2022, to the 23rd of the month of November, when NASA flew its helicopter on Mars for 18.3 seconds. 18.3 seconds hints at 18 divided by 3, which is 6, because 18 is 6 plus 6 plus 6, which in Bible prophecy is symbolism for the Antichrist. It flew 16 feet, which also hints at the Antichrist, the 44th president, because 16 is 4 times 4. Also, NASA flew its helicopter for 18 seconds, and the 18th prime number is 61, and the Antichrist was born in 1961 and will become the Antichrist and president again at the age of 61. Also, on December 1st, the NTSB, the National Transportation Safety Board, issued an urgent report regarding this same helicopter crash in Hawaii, the crash of the Bell 407 helicopter. The urgent report regarding this helicopter crash was an immediate warning to all those that have a Bell 407 helicopter to immediately examine their tails of the helicopter, as the reason why the helicopter crashed was because of a problem with the tail of the helicopter. And as will be explained progressively through this video series, God is using helicopters as symbolism for the dragon in Revelation chapter 12. And a big part of this description of this dragon involves his tail in Revelation chapter 12. NASA's helicopter will crash on the red planet Mars, which again will be symbolism for the red dragon being thrown down from heaven to earth, described in Revelation chapter 12. And so on December 1st, we have this urgent report, which is, of course, symbolism for the urgency God is warning of the coming Antichrist and judgment. This urgent report regarding this Bell 407 hints at the number 11. 407 hints at 4 plus 7 equals 11. And this was on the 1st of December, 31 days after the other NTSB report on the 31st of October, which again connects to the day that the Egypt Air flight crashed and went down on its way to Egypt, which hints at Isaiah chapter 31, which describes the Antichrist and begins with, "Woe to those who go down to Egypt." And so it is 31 days in between these two NTSB reports, and these reports regard the Bell 407 helicopter, which hints at 4 plus 7 equals 11, which confirms this 31 days connection between these two reports, because the number 31 is the 11th prime number. The instances of the number 11 in the Bible appear in context of the execution of God's judgment. This urgent warning by the NTSB regarding the Bell 407 helicopters regards their tails, and in Revelation chapter 12, the red dragon sweeps a third of the stars down to earth with his tail, which is symbolism for the fallen angels that are thrown down from heaven to earth, along with the red dragon, which is what will be symbolized when NASA's helicopter will fall and crash on the red planet on January 17th, which will be 47 days after this urgent warning from the NTSB regarding the Bell 407 helicopters, and 407 hints at 47. And so from this urgent warning report regarding the Bell 407 helicopters, which hints at the number 47, it is 47 days to the day it is predicted that NASA's helicopter will crash on the red planet Mars. And so from the day that Harrison Ford crashed his helicopter, it is 4 plus 4 days to the day that Flight 990 crashed and killed 203 people, which is a pairing of 23 and 44. And in turn, that day is exactly 23 years to the NTSB report regarding the helicopter crash in Hawaii, which was fine for the first 2 tours of the day, but then crashed on the 3rd tour, which hinted at the number 23. Which is in turn 31 days to the NTSB urgent warning regarding the Bell 407 helicopters, which in turn is 47 days to the date it is predicted that NASA's helicopter will crash on Mars. Another relevant prophetic sign on October 31st was NASA's astronomy photo of the day. October 31st was Halloween, and the photo was of what is known as the Cosmic Bat Nebula. This prophetic sign involved NASA, space, and flight. The prophetic sign that will be NASA's helicopter crash on Mars will likewise involve NASA, space, and flight. Like the crash of NASA's helicopter on Mars, the Cosmic Bat Nebula sign is symbolism for Satan and his angels being thrown down from heaven to earth at the beginning of the end times period of the Antichrist's rule. The Cosmic Bat Nebula is 1,400 light years away. This sign involving 1,400 light years occurred 4 days before the date 11/4, which hints at 11 times 4 equals 44, and this was the day of the China Red Dragon prophetic sign, which is also Revelation chapter 12, Satan and his angels being thrown down from heaven to earth at the beginning of the end times period, and is also a sign involving flight and space. And this was exactly 14 years after the 44th president was first elected. In the Bible, a 14-year period is symbolism for the end times period, and it is broken into 2 sets of 7 years. The Cosmic Bat Nebula, that is 1,400 light years away, is blocking the light from Nebula 7. Another related sign that occurred on Halloween was the nationally televised Monday Night Football game. The uniforms of Cleveland's and Cincinnati's football teams are orange. These cities are also both in the 17th state to join the Union. In the Bible, the number 17 is symbolism for the Antichrist. For example, in the book of Revelation, a beast is used as a metaphor for the Antichrist, and the beast has 7 heads and 10 horns, for which the number 17 symbolizes. The Antichrist will serve non-consecutive terms. He will skip the 45th presidency, just like President Cleveland, who was the only president to serve non-consecutive terms. President Cleveland skipped the 23rd presidency, which is why Obama wore jersey number 23. This football game that was played in Cleveland was exactly 23 years after 203 people were killed on Egypt Air Flight 990. The area of the country that is nicknamed Little Egypt, the area over which the path of totality of the Great American Eclipse Judgment Warning sign peaked, is connected to Chicago, the city that symbolizes Obama, with the I-55 highway. This is why, right as time expired in the first half of this game, that was exactly 23 years after the Egypt Air Flight 990 crash, Cleveland kicked a 55-yard field goal to make the score 11-0 going into the second half. The score 11-0 hints at the number 110, and is a prophetic number in the Bible that symbolizes walls of security collapsing in God's judgment. The number 9 also symbolizes God's judgment, and God pairs the numbers 9 and 110 together to confirm the signs and connections, and to point to the 110 stories of the World Trade Center that collapsed, and to point to George Washington's walk down Wall Street after his first inauguration. And Wall Street was named after the 9-foot-high wall of security that the Dutch built to keep the British and the Indians out. Egypt Air Flight 990 hints at 9 times 110, and 23 years after 203 people were killed on Flight 990, Cleveland kicked a 55-yard field goal to make the score 11-0, going into the second half. On 9/11, it was Flight 11, with a crew of 11 people, that flew into the Twin Towers that looked like a giant 11 in New York State, the 11th state to join the Union, and the World Trade Center is symbolism for the Tower of Babel story in the book of Genesis, chapter 11. This is because Jesus coined the phrase the 11th hour, which in ancient Israel referred to the last hour of daylight before darkness, and in English is an idiom that means last chance, time is running out. In other words, the events of 9/11 were a last chance warning for America to repent and turn back to God before judgment destruction. On 9/11, 2 planes struck the 2 towers that looked like a giant 11, and 11 divided by 2 equals 5.5, And this is why Cleveland kicked a 55-yard field goal to make the score 11-0 going into the second half, as the second half hints at the number 2. The kicker that kicked the 55-yard field goal to make the score 11-0 wears jersey number 3. This was kicked on October 31st, the date 10/31, and the date 10/31 hints at 2 1s and a 3. 11 points and player number 3 also hint at 2 1s and a 3. This is to hint at the number 113. Additionally, it was this rookie's second spectacular kick of the season. He began the season with a 58-yard field goal kick. He kicked a 58-yard field goal and a 55-yard field goal, and 55 plus 58 equals 113. This is because God is pointing to the 113th word in Strong's Concordance, which is the Greek word meaning lawless, wicked, unrestrained, unprincipled men. In other words, this prophetic sign is a 9/11 judgment warning that America is lawless and wicked and will soon be led by the lawless one, the Antichrist. And again, the date of this football game was the date of the report, the NTSB report regarding the Bell 407 helicopter, which hints at 11, 4 plus 7 equals 11. And again, the prophetic sign in this football game was this field goal that was kicked as time expired into the second half, which made the score 11-0. And so we have 2 number 11s in the prophetic signs on October 31st. And again, it is 31 days, which is the 11th prime number from this October 31st date and these signs to the date of the urgent warning report from the NTSB regarding the Bell 407 helicopters. These warning signs occurred on the 31st day of the month. The Antichrist is described in the 31st chapter in the book of Isaiah. This chapter begins with, "Woe to those who go down to Egypt." Right after becoming the president, Obama went down to Egypt. Obama is from Chicago, and the area of the nation nicknamed Little Egypt is connected to Chicago with the I-55 highway. This 55-yard field goal was kicked on the 31st of the month, and exactly 55 days after the 31st flight of NASA's helicopter on Mars. On its 31st flight, the helicopter flew for 55 seconds for the first time. This was on Martian Day 550 in the helicopter's mission, and it was also exactly 55 months after SpaceX launched a red Tesla Roadster into space at the same time that Elon Musk was talking about going to Mars, which was symbolism for the red dragon and the rider of the red horse, which the Bible uses as a metaphor for the Antichrist. Furthermore, SpaceX missions into space are called Dragon missions, and SpaceX astronauts are called Dragon crew, and they use what is called a Dragon capsule. Also, in God's signs, he is using helicopters as symbolism for dragons, and is using this to point to the red dragon in Revelation chapter 12. More regarding this will be explained as this video series progresses. It was said that the dummy in the red Tesla flying through space, which again is symbolism for the Antichrist riding the red horse, was listening to David Bowie music. And David Bowie and his music is Antichrist symbolism, and the iconic image of David Bowie with the lightning bolt over his right eye is hinting at Zechariah chapter 11 verse 17, which describes the Antichrist and the issue with his right eye. The lightning bolt is the symbol of the Antichrist. In the Gospel of Luke, Jesus said that he saw Satan falling like lightning from heaven, and Barack Obama's name in Hebrew means lightning from heaven. Barak is the word for lightning. Bama is the word for high place, which in the Bible is a metaphor for heaven. And O, in the language that Jesus would have spoken, Aramaic, is the word from. Hence, Barack Obama is lightning from heaven. Either Jesus didn't know what he was saying, or he knew that there would be a famous president named Barack Obama and said this anyway, even though it would confuse us, or he was revealing the identity of the Antichrist. Obviously, the latter option is the only option that makes any sense, and therefore this is 100% proof that the Antichrist is Barack Obama. The fall of Kamala Harris in a plane crash from the sky and then her replacement with the Antichrist is symbolized by Luke 10:18 when Jesus said he saw Satan falling like lightning from heaven. Also, Tesla, the company Tesla, is symbolism for electricity and lightning. And this is also why God uses Tesla in his signs as symbolism for Luke 10:18 and the Antichrist. And Nikola Tesla is famous for his lightning experiments. At the time of the red Tesla launch, Elon Musk was talking about how it was possible that the dummy in the red Tesla would encounter aliens. This is because the truth about aliens and UFOs is that they are demons masquerading as aliens and UFOs. And this is part of what is symbolized in Revelation chapter 12 when the red dragon is thrown down from heaven to earth along with his fallen angels. The coming alien deception will be in fact this, when Satan is thrown down from heaven to earth with his angels and pretend to be aliens and UFOs. In this prophetic football game, the score was 11-0 going into halftime, and it was 11 days before the date 11/11, which was the day that President Trump, God's trumpet that he uses to trumpet and highlight his prophetic signs, and is symbolism for when the Hebrews blew trumpets before the walls of security collapsed in God's judgment. Hence why the border wall of security is synonymous with Trump's presidency. And this is why on 11/11, Trump tweeted in his Truth social media post that America is falling, which was symbolism for the walls of security falling. And 11 days and the date 11/11 is symbolism for the 11th hour, which Jesus coined, which in ancient Israel referred to the last hour of daylight before darkness. And on this 11/11 date, the 11th of November, 2022, Trump said that America is falling in context of what had just happened in the 48th state, Arizona, because the 48th president will be the Antichrist, Barack Obama. And what Trump was referring to that had just happened in the 48th state involved a candidate named Lake. Because in Bible prophecy, it is said that the Antichrist, the dragon, will be thrown into the lake of fire. President Trump is Book of Joshua symbolism when the Hebrews marched around the walls of security of Jericho before they collapsed, fell in God's judgment. Joshua led them, and he died at the age of 110, which is what the score 11-0 hints at. It hints at 110, which is why this score 11-0 was 11 days before the 11th day of the 11th month, and Trump's prophetic post regarding America falling. This date 11/11 is in the trail of signs leading to the day it is predicted that the helicopter will fall onto Mars, which will symbolize when the red dragon and his fallen angels were thrown and fell from heaven to earth. And the dragon is symbolism for the Antichrist. And this date 11/11 was 66 days after the helicopter's flight for 55 seconds on Martian day 550. That date was September 6th, which is 9/6, and hints at 6 divided by 9 equals 0.666. which is Antichrist symbolism, and also the number 66 is the 11th triangular number, which in a triangle of numbers, the last number in the 11th row is 66, which is the reason for this prophetic connection of 66 days from the date 1111 to the date that symbolizes .666. NASA's helicopter will crash on the red planet Mars, and this will be symbolism for the Antichrist. In Bible prophecy, the color red is associated with the Antichrist. In Bible prophecy, the number 666 is symbolism for the Antichrist, and the number 36 is symbolism for 666. 36 is 6 times 6, and 2 times 18, which is 6 plus 6 plus 6. And the 36th triangular number, which in a triangle of numbers, the last number in the 36th row is 666. And 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4, all the way up to 36, equals 666. NASA's Ingenuity helicopter will crash on Mars exactly 36 months after the extremely prophetic sign, which was when the historic barge on the Niagara River moved for the first time in over 100 years. From the date the historic barge moved, it is exactly 36 months to the date it is predicted that NASA's helicopter will crash, and then in turn it is exactly 40 weeks to the date that it is predicted that the historic barge will crash over Niagara Falls. It is predicted that Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash due to a bird strike. This will symbolize when Jesus said he saw Satan falling like lightning from heaven. It is through her death and replacement that the Antichrist will return to power. Her fall from the sky in a plane crash will symbolize when Jesus said that he saw Satan falling like lightning from heaven. This is also what will be symbolized when NASA's helicopter will fall and crash onto the red planet Mars. If you found the information in this video to be interesting, and I assume that you did, you will definitely want to watch part 2. The information will continue to build on itself and become more and more amazing. The information is also extremely important. Make sure you watch part 2. Part 2 goes under a different title. Part 2 is titled Prediction: NASA's Mars Copter Will Crash on December 18th. I will leave a link in the description box below this video to Part 2. Please leave a like and a comment on this video and share this video everywhere with everyone you know and everywhere in social media, and don't stop sharing it. And if you are Christian, know that it is your obligation to share it everywhere you go. Ezekiel chapter 33. The watchmen that don't warn others of what God is communicating is coming. God will hold them responsible for the sin of others. In the most important video on this channel, which is titled God's Purpose for These Predictions, I will explain the reason for why God has given me a voice through this prediction that is from God. You are making a very grave and serious error if you think you already know how I was able to know this prediction, and more importantly, if you think you already know why I was able to know this prediction. It would be very foolish for you to skip watching this most important video. You will have missed the point of this prediction. One of the purposes for this prediction is to establish that the main conclusions being stated in this video are fact. It is a serious warning for those that disagree with the things being stated in this video, and to not appreciate this is to miss entirely the point of this prediction that is from God, and it is to miss the point of this video and video channel. In the description box below, I will leave a link to the video titled God's Purpose for These Predictions. Aliens and UFOs are demons masquerading as aliens and UFOs for the gullible that will believe it because they don't have a solid biblical worldview. Most people's spiritual experiences are demonic deception, especially if they are not a true follower of Christ. The New Age or New Spirituality or Consciousness religion is evil deception from Satan. Satan and demons will give Catholics and New Agers spiritual experiences that they think confirm for them their beliefs, but these spiritual experiences are demonic deception for those that refuse to love the truth and so be saved. There is a spiritual reality behind the material world that we see. The wages for sin is death. Sin means to miss the mark. No one is good, all have sinned. Because of sin, people are captives of the ruler of this world, Satan. People's souls belong to Satan, whose power over people is death. God took the form of a man, Jesus Christ, and paid the ransom that is owed to the ruler of this world. Through Christ's death and resurrection, he defeated sin and he overcame Satan's power in death. It is through Christ and his Spirit that it is possible for everyone to be forgiven of their sin, and we can have eternal life if we choose it. We can choose to follow Jesus out of captivity from sin and Satan, or we can choose to reject this and remain a slave to this world, sin, and to Satan. If one rejects Jesus Christ, after they die, they will pay the price for their sin in hell, and then they will die the second death, and their soul will cease to exist. Believing in Christ means much more than simple intellectual agreement. It means to repent of sin and completely commit one's life and become a willing slave to Jesus and his kingdom. Jesus said we need to be born again, which implies a death of the self and a death to this world. Believing in Jesus implies living out one's faith through taking action that typically involves risk and sacrifice. This demonstration of faith through action is what it means to have faith and to believe in Jesus. Some Christians will tell you otherwise, but they are deceived, and they ignore countless passages in the Bible. Please leave a like and upvote the video, and once this prediction has come to pass, share this video with everyone you know, and more, don't stop sharing it everywhere in social media. It is essential that everyone immediately read the homepage of my website, TrumpPrediction.com.